What's up, world? You know what time it is. I'm WWE superstar veteran and current New Japan superstar, Mr. No Days Off Fred Rosser, and you're watching the Cheap Wrestler channel.
Warning, warning, warning.
Cheap wrestler Matt Rivera is not a pro wrestling trainer, nor does he claim to be. How to Become a Pro Wrestler takes an honest look at his triumphs and setbacks on the road to his pro wrestling return. He shares advice, insight, and personal reflection with those interested in his and their own ventures in the wrestling business along the way. This is How to Become a Pro Wrestler.
Like the disclaimer says, I am not a pro wrestling trainer. I am just a professional wrestler, and this series will follow me on my, I don't know what to call it, adventures, misadventures into becoming a pro wrestler. Now, I've done wrestling, as you know, in the past, but this is going to be my experience that I'm sharing with you guys, and I will be giving you guys any tips, any thoughts, anything that I think that you might need to know about how to become a pro wrestler. Now, I think I picked the wrong day to do this because it's like been the coldest day so far this month. It's been rainy, it's been windy. I think there's a fire down the street, so all you hear is alarms. So if you guys hear alarms in the background, I apologize in advance. But let's get this thing started, shall we? A lot of times I get asked, what do I need in order to become a wrestler? Like, how should I start? What could I be doing right now before I even start wrestling training? Now, this question kind of gets mixed answers for people. If you ask a lot of trainers, if you ask a lot of wrestlers, their answer will be, just start. Sign up for a school right now. Don't even think about it. Just go do it. I feel mixed on that answer. I think there are some things that you could be doing right now before you even start looking at a school. Why am I returning to wrestling after all this time? If I had to pick one answer, and one answer only, it would be redemption. When I take a look at my career and how it ended, I didn't ride off into the sunset. It wasn't a happy ending. It wasn't a fairy tale story ending. It ended kind of abruptly, kind of awkwardly, and I feel like there was a lot of untapped potential for me in the world of wrestling. A lot of things that I feel like I could have accomplished that I didn't. And I feel like redemption is what I owe to myself. I've grown a lot since Extreme Cheapskates. I've changed a lot, I think, for the better. And I think now it might be a little easier for me to actually tap into that potential. And I want to see what comes of it. I think I owe that to myself. And I owe it to my supporters. This series was originally supposed to be like a year or so ago, but unfortunately, as we all know, we went through the COVID-19 pandemic, and it started a little bit later. So I owe it to my supporters, my YouTube subscribers, and fans all around the world. I think selfishly, I want to see me tap into that potential, but I think I'll have a lot of people who have my back that want to see the same thing. For example, let's say you're too young. There's a lot of people out there that contact me that are 12 years old, 15 years old, and they say, ooh, let that little gust of wind pass by. Big gust of wind. Whoa! A lot of people are young. You want to finish school. I understand that. Maybe after high school you want to start, but you're 13 years old and you're asking yourself, what could I be doing now? There are a few things you should be doing right now. First of all, if you're not doing any athletics, fix that. You should be joining school teams. We're talking baseball, basketball. You could be doing like karate. You could be doing swimming, football, wrestling. You should be doing all those things right now if your schools offer it, because they're offering it for you for free. It's free, and you can get your body in great shape. You can learn the discipline you'll need in the wrestling ring. So take advantage of that while you're in school, because I did not take advantage of it, and I wish I did. I look back at it now. I was on the wrestling team for like 2 months. I was on the football team for like 2 months, and I look back at it and I'm just like, man, I really should have stuck with it. It would have done, I did myself a disservice going into professional wrestling without having these things built into my system already. Given the fact that we are just coming out of a pandemic, I can understand the hesitation for a lot of people to join a wrestling school right now. But again, there's still things you should be doing. You should be working out every single day. Start a schedule. Make sure you're working out at least 5 days a week. Ideally, for me, I say you work out 7 days a week, because that will really motivate you. And if you do happen to have those odd days where you can't do it for whatever reason, there's a family emergency or whatever, at least you could say you did it at least 5 days a week. But start exercising right now. Don't be like me. Don't be like me. Well, you know what? No, I got to give credit where credit's due. I exercise a lot. But there's so many people that just want to play video games all day. They're like, yeah, I love wrestling. I want the new SmackDown versus Raw, and I want to be a wrestler. I'm like, okay, well, stop playing wrestling and start living it. Start living what a wrestler does. You need to get on these things. Diet's another one. So we'll talk about diet in a little bit, but these are all things you should be working on right now. Another reason why you might be hesitant to start wrestling training: money. Maybe you need to save some money. I get that. I completely understand that. So while you're saving money, you should be doing all of these things. And now you might say, well, I'm 19 years old. I'm out of high school. I'm not going to college. So how do I, do sports and be on a team? There's lots of options. There's lots of options out there. Just Google it. Google is like an amazing source. You can find kickball teams. You can find dodgeball teams. All of these different things that will teach you discipline. As far as goals, yeah, there's a lot of things I want to do this time around. I mean, I literally have a list of wrestlers, at least like 10 to 20 wrestlers that I would love to work with. Some I've worked with before, and some that I've never worked with at all. And I definitely want to, make some marks off that list. That would be awesome. I want to win more championships. That way I can, not only just add it to my resume, to my collection, but also be a champion in a company, carry it, defend it. And I feel like that'd be really sweet. Work for new promotions that I've never worked for, and that includes but not limited to Impact Wrestling, All Elite Wrestling, World Wrestling Entertainment. Yeah, nobody's safe this time around. It's time for the main reason for this episode, the prerequisites. What do I need before I start wrestling training? And here are 8 things that you should be working on today. Number 1, cardio. Start running. Start running like right now. Start doing jumping jacks, whatever you have to do to get that heart rate going, to build a stamina and endurance, because you're going to need it. You're going to need it so much when you're running those ropes, when you're doing drills in the ring. You are going to need that stamina. You're going to need that cardio up. So start running right now. Maybe do a mile or 2 each day just to, get the blood pumping, get your muscles warmed up to it. But you should really get your cardio high. Get it as high as you can. So when you step in that ring, it's not a surprise. They say there's no training like wrestling training. There's nothing like it. And that is absolutely true. However, if you have good cardio, it'll help. Number 2 is flexibility. Start stretching. I mean, really get those muscles warmed up. If you could get to that point where, you can touch your toes and your back doesn't hurt, or you could do it easily, that's a good thing. You're going to need that because there will be people twisting you up in a knot with their submissions, and you're going to want to be able to move. And it also helps you with other things like leapfrogs, getting those legs high up in the air. So start stretching, increase your flexibility. Number 3, strength. Bam! Start building your strength right now. I mean, whatever you have to do. Do your push-ups, lift some heavy things.
I lift things up and put them down.
Start building those muscles for 2 things. Not only will it help you in the ring, you're going to have to hold people up. It's just part of what you do. You throw people on your shoulders, you lift them for body slams. You're going to have to push your own weight up for certain moves. So you're going to need functional strength. Now, this next one might surprise some people, but public speaking. Yes, public speaking. There are a lot of people in professional wrestling where the athletics come easy to them, but the character development, the mic skills are really difficult. And sometimes people think, oh no, it'll be fine. And then when they're put on the spot, it's really, really challenging. So start doing some public speaking. Either take a class. I mean, if you're in college, there's definitely public speaking classes. There might be in your high school too. So look into it. If not, just try things that will force you to public speak. Join a theater class. Join an acting class. Those things will only help make you more comfortable in those situations, make you more comfortable in front of a live crowd, make you more comfortable in front of a camera, make you more comfortable in front of a microphone. Start working on that now. Your jump, not only your vertical leap, but your horizontal leap as well. I mean, this is something that I really struggle with. I'm not going to lie to you. I really struggle with this. My jump sucks. It's so bad. So that's why I just have to work harder at it. Some people, it comes easy to them. Maybe start with a step, literally like stairs in your house or in front of your building. You could just do that and kind of get the motion, get used to it over and over, and then maybe go to the second step. Whatever makes you feel comfortable. Some people have, they go to the gym and there's some equipment that you can use at the gym, but even just some stairs would be really, really helpful. You're going to have to get used to jumping. Balance. Balance is super important, more important than people realize in professional wrestling, because you need good footing. What do I mean by footing? If you are doing certain moves, let's say like an Irish whip, you need to make sure that your steps are proper. Everything is about your steps and how your movements are. And if your movements are all screwy and your feet are all over the place, no one likes happy feet in the ring, trust me. It makes, whoa, everything's blowing away. Whoa, 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 whoa. It makes things way more difficult if your feet can't remain planted or if you have no coordination. So footing is extremely important and balance will help that. So work on your balance, use a balance beam. You could even YouTube certain exercises that will help with balance. The next one is mindset. Mindset, what do I mean by that? So wrestling could be really frustrating some days. There's some days you're gonna go into training or have a match and you're like, yes, nailed it. That's exactly how I wanted that to go down. It couldn't have gone any better. I am very happy with the results. And then there's days that are going to be the opposite. Man, I could not get that move. That drill was so difficult. My promo was garbage. So you're going to have a good mindset going into wrestling because it is tough. It is tough. If I haven't said this already, it's extremely difficult. Wrestling is not easy. It's not something that anybody can just walk into and do it, or else everybody would do it, right? So make sure you tell yourself that. Make sure. My mindset has changed a lot since the last time I went into the ring. I mean, I'm definitely more mature, a little less arrogant, a little more grounded, I would say. Grounded's a good word. More positive than I was back then. Back the last time I wrestled, my ego got in the way. It definitely prevented me from reaching that potential that I talked about before. And I don't really have that now. You know, I have a lot of confidence, self-awareness, but I don't think ego is included in that. I'm not afraid to make mistakes or look foolish. I think a younger me was very much complacent, in a comfort zone. I didn't really want to try new things for the, the sake of looking dumb. You know, I wouldn't want to try a new move just because I'm like, I don't want to mess it up and then look like an idiot and people laugh at me. What a silly thing to think. How am I ever going to learn or grow? I think my new mindset is so positive. I don't care if I mess the same sequence up 100 times in a row, as long as I keep working to get there and I eventually get it. Younger me, I don't think I would have been secure enough with that. You need to mentally prepare for the difficulty of wrestling. It's going to be tough. There's days that it's going to wear you down. So be ready for that. And if you can go into it with that clear mindset and stay positive, stay humble, stay respectful. Those things are so important. Stay humble and respectful. And listen. Make sure you're always ready to listen, because that is so important. If you can't listen, then that means you're not teachable, you're not coachable. And if you can't listen, or if you can't or you choose not to listen, that increases the chance that someone will get hurt. If you can't or you will not listen, that increases the chance that someone will get hurt. That's just a fact. Number 8. Now this last one I should have actually started with. When I originally wrote down the things that I was going to say, this was going to be number 1, but I totally forgot because I wrote it last. So the final thing, and one of the most important things to do before you start wrestling training, sort out your weaknesses. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by sort out your weaknesses? I don't mean the things that you're not good at. When I say weaknesses, I mean things like medical conditions, maybe past injuries, things like that, that before you even get started, before you even think about getting started, you should sort those things out immediately. Before anything else, before cardio, before strength, before any of that stuff, sort out your weaknesses. For example, and again, this series isn't merely just about me, telling you things that you should be doing to become a professional wrestler. It's also giving you guys an honest look, honest insight on my own career. Weaknesses. I definitely have some weaknesses going into this return that I need to deal with. The last time I wrestled, my Crohn's disease wasn't as active. I guess that's the best word to say. Active as it is now. I went for many years, probably the last 5 years, just kind of hoping that diet and taking care of myself for the most part would keep my Crohn's at bay. No, it hasn't. And I was really stubborn about it. And just recently, I decided to start taking medication, maybe 6 months ago. Started taking some heavy duty medication, which I really, really tried to avoid, but I'm glad I decided to buckle down and make it happen. And that's definitely a weakness that I've started to take care of because I knew I'd be wrestling. Crohn's disease is no joke. And Crohn's disease is an autoimmune disease. Now, some people might know this about me, but I used to have this form of arthritis that was in my knees back when I was 18 years old. And my knees would swell up to like the size of cantaloupes. Huge. So painful. There were days where I couldn't bend my knee at all. Like I was just immobile and I'd had to be in a wheelchair. It was wild. But after all the years of having that, and thankfully, I don't see any, oh, there's some wood. Knock on wood. Thankfully, it's not something that I've dealt with recently at all. But from all those years of getting my knee drained and the swelling and the reducing of the swelling, my knees are messed up. So I think one weakness I have to deal with is getting my knees back on track. I definitely need to see a doctor and maybe get them looked at, find out if there's a way I can strengthen them. Maybe I have to do some rehab. I don't know, but these are weaknesses I didn't really have to deal with the last time I wrestled. Maybe you're 19 and when you were 17 you were playing high school football, dislocated your shoulder, and now you notice whenever you lift weights it clicks and it kind of hurts. Get that checked out. These are the kinds of things I'm talking about. Don't start wrestling and then one day your shoulder pops out of place and you realize, oh man, I probably should have got that taken care of. Yeah, take care of that now. Take care of that now. And it doesn't have to be a physical weakness. Maybe you deal with depression. Maybe you have high anxiety. And these are things that, wrestling causes a lot of pressure. So these are things that you want to get a hold of before you start going into something that's going to cause a lot more stress in your life. Maybe you speak with a stammer, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when you cut promos and whatnot, obviously you're not going to want to speak with that stammer. So what could you do now? Are there speech classes you can be taking? Maybe there's something you could do to help with that. And these are all things that I am listing under weaknesses, things that you want to fix before you even get in the ring. Things that you might want to fix before you even start going through the rest of the 7. At the end of every episode, I'm going to try to answer like 3 to 4 questions from you guys. Now, this first one is from Giuseppe Amato, who wants to know, when the crowd is roaring and everything, your adrenaline is pumping, does that make the moves hurt less? I can't speak for everybody, but I would say absolutely. And I think that's the case with any sport, honestly. When you have a live crowd and your heart is racing, the blood is pumping, and the adrenaline is flowing, things tend to hurt a little bit less until you get back in the locker room and you're like, oh my gosh, what did I do to my shoulder? I didn't feel that in the ring. Ruler of All asked, what in particular would I like to stand out for in wrestling? Now, I don't know if you mean specifically me or just people, but you had named a few styles like hardcore style, high-flying, technical. For me, mic skills and entertainment, that's always been my number one thing that I think I'm really good at, and I would like to continue to be one of the best at it because I really feel like, I'm top-tier talent when it comes to being on the mic. Not to toot my own horn, but that's something that I always want to stand out for sure. And I think it really just depends on the person. Some people love, jumping in the air and doing these flips, so they might say high flyer. Some people love mat wrestling, so they might say technical. But for me, I love being on the mic, trash talking, and just kind of having that character development, storyline, psychology within a match, which we'll talk about more of those things on a future episode. Brochungus wants to know, what's the best wrestler diet? Now, to me, you got to go lean. Go with like lean meats. You have your fish, you have your chicken. That you can't go wrong with those things. For breakfast, I love eggs, high in protein. You really want to go, low fats, high protein. Stay away from sugary drinks. In no world do you need sugary drinks. You don't need your sodas. You don't need your fruit punch. You don't need any of that stuff. So scrap them. Stick to water. Mr. Clean wants to know, what is the most difficult part of wrestling? Now, this really depends on the person. For me personally, and like I said, I'm going to give you guys a lot of insight about myself, about my own career, where I'm not going to really hold back. I'm going to be honest. This is what it's all about, being honest here. For me, it is definitely the athletics. I told you guys before, I did not do enough sports in school. I did not do physical activity when I was younger. So these are things that I'm telling you, if you're interested in being a professional wrestler, start right now. Hopefully you started when you were like 12. If you haven't, now is the time to start. Athletics were very difficult for me. I was always interested in acting. I was always interested in things like theater. So that's why that's easier for me, those parts. But I should have done a nice balance of both. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, oh, my athletics are okay and my mic skills are great, so we're in business. No. All that means is I have to work harder than everybody else at my athletics. I think this series is going to be something really special. There's a lot of egos in wrestling, and I feel like now that mine is kind of on the back burner, I can have an open, honest series to share with wrestling fans, people who want to follow my career, people who are interested in pursuing wrestling for themselves, so they can see the good, the bad, the triumphs, the tragedies, all of that stuff, everything in between. I want this to be really honest and open. And I think the biggest challenge of how to become a pro wrestler for me is going to be time. And I say that because when I originally thought of this, I wanted to do it a year ago. This is summer of 2021. I wanted to start this in summer of 2020, but the pandemic held me back a whole year, and now life is so crazy. In September, I'm going to be a father. So in my mind, for the next 4 months, I'm on a fast track. I want to do things as quickly as possible, obviously as efficiently as possible as well, but I want to find that balance of both. So it's going to make this series more challenging, but also more exciting to watch. So stay tuned, because this is how to become a pro wrestler. This was just the prerequisites. This was just the warm-up to the series. On the next episode, we start visiting training schools. I talk about training schools. We're going to talk to some trainers a little bit, ask them some questions that you guys have, and then it's time to put in that work.
I've got to give a special shout out to the Frugal Faction. Are you ready for the cheap wrestler to return to the ring? Then you've got to get the latest gear. I've partnered with Redbubble to bring you guys the dopest merch, including a brand new line of time to make change shirts, masks, cell phone cases, backpacks. The list goes on and on and on. And these all come in classic cheap wrestler graphics too. Don't be second rate. Get your merch today. Click that link in the description. Let's go. Penny for your thoughts ain't worth the price. When the rent this high, knock out your lights. Proven in seconds, oozing electric. Smells like glass. School is in session. Saved by the bell, yeah, I'm on fire, blazing in hell. Save your career, rather save on a sale. Stuck behind bars, making no bail. I cashed in, attraction. Numero uno, action brutal, faction frugal. I'm the your matches doodle.